What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with a preview for the AT&T Pebble Beach. It is another one of these weeks where we've got a course rotation. Seems to happen a lot at the beginning of the calendar year, and we're seeing it again this week. So just to be clear, Pebble Beach is the namesake of the tournament. It's the host course, but there's actually 3 courses in rotation here. So let me make sure I get this right. Pebble Beach, Spyglass Hill, and Monterey Peninsula are the 3 courses. Everyone will play each of those, and then there will be a Saturday cut, so after 3 rounds, and the top 60 in ties will move on and go back to Pebble Beach. There's a lot of different things to take into account. We've talked about it other weeks where we've had course rotations. You know, we tend to throw away some of the historical course stats because ShotLink is only available on Pebble Beach. We don't have a ton of data on the other courses. So when we get to correlations for this tournament, I tend to throw them away a little bit. I think they're good, not great, just because there's so many different factors here. Also want to keep an eye on the weather. So these courses can play drastically different in certain weather conditions. I think it's supposed to be pretty good this week up there, but you know, I'll keep an eye on it and we'll see. And then finally, talked about this, I think, a little bit at Torrey Pines. Like, do you want to play Pebble Beach and then come back to it, or do you want to play Pebble Beach on Saturday and then be able to play it Sunday as well? So you get you're the flight that gets to play the same course back-to-back days. Is that an advantage? I don't know the answer to that question. I'm going to look it up, see if I can find something, see if I can look back at past course rotations and see if there's something to that. So just follow me on Twitter. If I find something, I'll tweet it out. But for this week, it's really interesting. You always get a really good field here. And it's also a Pro-Am. Oh, by the way, it's also a Pro-Am. So these rounds are going to last, what, like 6 or 7 hours? Like, they're going to be long rounds like they always are with a bunch of amateurs out there. But it is just, again, a really star-studded, interesting field. Dustin Johnson leads the way. We're going to look at his course history. It's going to be incredible. You have Jon Rahm. You have Rory making his, 2018 debut on the PGA Tour. Jason Day, who won the last time out, and Spieth round this out above 10K. So really, really interesting. So let's talk about these dynamics a little bit. Dustin Johnson, the absolute chalk of the week. You can see from his tournament history here, 3 top 4s in the last 4 years, and really it's even better than that. So here's the course history tool, which again, all these tools are available on dfsondemand.com. Here's DJ, 10 starts here, and I can sort this by year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 top 7s in 10 starts, including 2 wins. Yeah, that's pretty good. So DJ coming out on top as the chalk is no surprise there. Rahm, we talk about Rahm every single week. Okay, if you've watched this video series before, you know that I'm a big believer in Rory. I think he is still very likely. I think he's probably the best golfer in the world, quite honestly. And I know that draws a lot of shade because you've got DJ and you've got Rahm, and Rory's kind of been banged up and Spieth is always there, but still believe in Rory so much for his skill set, and it feels like he's finally healthy. I wonder if I have Rory's Euro stuff recently. I should, right? Yeah, okay. So here's Rory since October. So this would be after the playoffs, October 1st, October 8th, and then he played the first or the last couple weeks of January. So all European Tour, second place, a 63rd, a second, and a third. So rounding into form, especially here in January, he went to Dubai and Abu Dhabi, right? Comes out with 2 top 3s, goes 40 under par in 2 starts. So the birdie ability is there clearly. So I like Rory this week. I'm always a big fan of his, but I think there's such an interesting dynamic here. Jason Day, who won in his last start, but it wasn't last week. I always like that because you had the week off to kind of get everything all in. You know, you don't have to deal with the pressure of being asked all the questions about winning. You get a week to relax, blah, 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 whatever narrative you want. And then you run his course history here, and he's got some really great numbers, right? A bunch of top 6s. He's never won here, but that doesn't mean he can't, right? Like, really like Jason Day. And then Spieth, I'm going to be thrilled to see what the ownership is on Spieth. He is obviously excellent. Outstanding course history, right? No, only John Rahm is better, and Rahm has only played it one time. Spieth is your defending champion. He's added 5 top 20s and 3 top 10s, but he missed the cut last week. And I know a lot of the industry was on him. And usually the biggest driver of someone being under-owned is missing the cut the week before. Historically, that's what's been shown. But he's also the defending champion. So, like, how does that play into this? And you've got all these other big names. So I'll be really interested to see what Jordan Spieth's ownership is. The fact that he's the cheapest one, he's $1,000 less expensive than Dustin Johnson, you'll probably find me buying back in on him. Okay, the next little tier, I guess I'd call it here, there's a couple of interesting names. So Matt Kuchar finishes strong last week, but let me show you how good Patrick Cantlay has been. So this is everyone in the field since the start of last swing season, so October 2016. So basically a year and a half, right? Here are the most DraftKings points per tournament. Rahm, DJ, Spieth, and then it's Cantlay and it's Pat Perez. So we're going to talk about both of those guys. So Patrick Cantlay, elite talent at least over the course of the last year and a half, 75 DraftKings points per start. He's been excellent. You get him at $8,900. Pat Perez, who was chalk at the Tournament of Champions and backed it up with a 4th place, has had a great run here. 14th last year, a 4th and a 7th in 15 and 14. So those two guys in that, 8,500 to 9,000 range, I'm going to be plugging them into like everything. Just seems like a lot of really good value for those two players. When we start to sneak down a little bit, you've got Snedeker, who I'm still just such a big believer on. For DFS purposes, he's a type of player who can get scorching hot. Like, some guys are not capable of this. Justin Thomas, you saw him birdie the first 6 holes. I think it was on Saturday, right? He, like how many players on tour are not even capable of birdieing 6 in a row? Now, JT gave them all back, but that's another story. Snedeker's maybe not that type of player, but he can get hot really quickly, start throwing darts, start making putts, and he goes really, really low. Past champion here, 4th place last year. Has kind of floundered a little bit, a top 25 last week, a 30th back at the RSM or a 29th. Just hasn't done much recently, but he's the type of player that if you wait for him to show out, if you wait for him to get hot, it's going to be too late. So I'll be allocating plenty of shares to Brandt Snedeker. Who else in this range? Reavie, great run last week. We've talked about Reavie every single week. Go back and watch those videos. There is one really interesting value play, but I'm going to run through some of these other stats here, or these other tools here in a second. So let's see. Course history wise, let's just go back maybe the last 4 years and see if we can find a couple of outliers. The cream rises to the top here. Gary Woodland's up top. Phil Mickelson, another guy you might just want to run out again. This is really the time in the schedule I'd prefer to use him. Almost willing to buy back in on JB. His ownership got killed last week. So at the Farmers, he finishes in the 3rd place. Takes 4 minutes on 18 trying to pick a club. Gets shredded on Twitter. His ownership drops. I thought last week was a pretty good fit for him. He missed the cut. Like, he's going to be very solidly single-digit owned, if not like under 5%. I think the industry hates him right now. Like, I don't mind JB. He's had some decent success here in the past. He's got 2 top 10s. I can separate my feelings for him personally compared to fantasy wise, but I don't know. There's just something about that ownership that is always very enticing to me. Let's flip to the tour stats here. So again, if you're new to this, I've got, we're actually looking at since again, the start of last swing season for this chart here, you can see there's a lot of big names. If we just go to like maybe like let's just go to January 2018, so very small window here. Let's see if anything pops out. Obviously, you've got your winners here. Oh, James Hahn in 4 starts. Actually, that was interesting because his prices come up a lot, and I'm not particularly a big James Hahn fan, but the results are there. Second place at the Sony, 11th at the Waste Management. This has been a really good year for him, a good 2018. So I don't mind you investing. I'm just not a huge fan. There's someone else on here I'm routinely skipping because I want to I'll show you at the end how ridiculous this is. Let's just go to the correlation here. So again, if you're new to this is the most exciting part about what we've done this year for tools. Long story short, ran a regression model, last 8 years of all the PGA Tour stats, last 8 years of DraftKings results, and we're seeing which PGA stats correlate to success in DraftKings. I don't love this as much this week because of the fact that there's a 3-course rotation. So these numbers might be a little bit skewed because of that. We're only getting 2 rounds at Pebble. There's a lot of factors in play here, but these are probably not as valuable as they will be other weeks of the year moving forward, but they're still pretty cool. So here are the stats that are most closely correlating with DraftKings success. Scoring average. No surprise, but we do have a couple of what I would say are value plays, right? Will McGirt at 6,800. Chesson Hadley, who we were all over last week. I got a lot of tweets about that. A lot of guys had some great success with Hadley last week. I was thrilled for that. Reeves in here, Coke Rack. Austin Cook is the guy I keep skipping. We'll talk about him more in depth. I mean, keep a pin on Austin Cook. He's the value play. He's the free space this week. All right, I'll just get into it now. So Austin Cook is your free space, right? He's $7,000. Let's go back to the cheat sheet. Look at all these guys who are more expensive than Austin Cook. It's terrible. Let's look at the Vegas odds, which not all of them are out yet, but enough of them are out to make this point. So this will fill in as the week goes on. Here is Austin Cook, 50-1. He's $7,000. Phil Mickelson, also 50-1, 9,600. Okay, Reeve, Chappell, they're 60-1. They have worse odds. They're $1,000 more expensive. All these guys are $1,000 more expensive. And you've got Austin Cook sitting here at 7,000. JB Holmes, 40-1 to win, 7,400. Those are the discrepancies in pricing that we're looking for. That's what we're looking for. Austin Cook, $7,000. Insane. Let's go back to this. Let's go back to the other page. You probably saw this. Here is since January. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7th most DraftKings points since the start of January 1st. If we go back, now this is a much smaller sample size, back to the start of last year, much smaller sample. He's only played 9 tournaments, but 74 DraftKings points. That's upper echelon production from a guy who's $7,000. Let's just pull up his game logs real quick just so you can see the actual results here. And I am sorted by date. So the win at the RSM shows he can win a golf tournament. Back to that right up with 3 straight top 25s, and then what, 31st last week. Even going back to he's a young guy, back to other starts that he's had, he's posting top 10s like kind of regularly, right? Or at least top 15s, right? 13th, 11th, 6th, 7th, the win, 14, 18. Like the dude's in contention. And the DraftKings points show it, and this price is wrong. And I don't say that too often, but that price is wrong. We'll go back to the cheat sheet, see if there's any other big discrepancies here. As much as I like Phil for DraftKings purposes because he's a birdie maker and he's volatile and whatnot, if you're looking at this from strictly a Vegas odds salary perspective, he's way overpriced. Or at least you'd rather get his peers like Patrick Reed, Charlie Hoffman, again, Austin Cook, other guys who are cheaper and have the same odds to win. Coke Rack, again, kind of pops up as a value because he's 6,900 and Hadley and Hahn have the same odds to win. Streelman's actually been pretty good recently. So here's Streelman just like pounding out top 30s, top 25s, and two top 17s here in the last 2 years. Streelman, I don't think has missed a cut in like, I read it, 17. There's like 17 out of his last 18 cuts or something like that. So pretty strong play. But yeah, those are the real. Whoops, my bad. Those are the real pricing discrepancies. And let's go back and round out this correlation chart here. So scoring average, we've got some values. Austin Cook again popping up there. This stat, which is becoming popular every single week, it's this basically strokes against the rest of the field, comparing players who've played the same tournaments in the same rounds. It's a per round stat. So it is really interesting. Look at the names at the top here. DJ far and away better than everyone. And then it's Day, Perez, Hadley, Reevy's up there, Austin Cook is up there, Streelman's up there, Kokrak's up there. So when I'm calling out these names, these are going to be the core of my lineups, right? Like I'll have a ton of DJ, I'll have a ton of Day. I'll take Spieth for maybe some contrarian looks, but these are the glue is like these $8,500, $8,600 players, Perez, Hadley, Austin Cook, Streelman, Kokrak. Those are my values. Like those are the guys I'm going to play. So when you're tweeting me like, oh, like who do you like? Like these guys are going to make up the vast majority of everyone in my lineups. Birdie or better. This was the big one this week. You have to make a lot of birdies here, or I shouldn't say that. What I should say is birdie or better correlates very strongly with success at this tournament. It was one of the highest stats, higher than other weeks. So no surprise to see a lot of big names up there, and then you get Pat Perez is the first guy under 9,000. Kiz is in here. Saunders, Piercy, Cook. So again, when the same names start popping up, that's what we're looking for. And the strokes gained total, no surprise there, but let's take a peek. Woodland's back up there now after last week. Interesting to see McDowell. I wonder how big that sample size is. Patrick Reed, believe it or not. Patrick Reed, let's look at Patrick Reed because I'm not sure what we're going to find. Very good strokes gained for this field. More than Jason Day, and he's $3,000 cheaper. What has Patrick Reed done? We have not looked deep into Patrick Reed much at all recently. So here you go. 17th last week, 23rd at Torrey. Missed the cut at the Career Builder. Found some success on the Euro Tour at the end of last year. Started to get it going a little bit. Couple top 10s. I mean, really boom or bust is what it looks like, right? Couple missed cuts, couple 50ths, but also a handful of top 10s in the last 10 or 12 starts. Patrick Reed wasn't really on my radar until I got to that strokes gain stat. I might throw a couple shares in GPPs just to, again, try to gain some of that volatility like we would for Brandt Snedeker. I think that's a similar comparison. But at least the last 2 weeks, he's turned it around a bit. So that's pretty interesting to see. And then that might be it here. Let's just see if anyone else pops out. No, I think that's pretty good. Oh, there's JB Holmes on the strokes gained side. So there you go. Looking at Holmes, looking at Austin Cook will be in so many of my lineups. Pat Perez will be in so many of my lineups. Try to get as much DJ, Rory, Jason Day, Spieth as I can. Obviously, as you should be too. As the week goes on, I'll really be interested to see how the industry is on both Spieth and Rory. And how, if we can kind of predict how they're going to react, maybe we can make some decisions otherwise. So follow me on Twitter. It's at DFS On Demand. If I find anything cool for this week or I can do some course rotation stuff, I'll tweet it out. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about this week. It's an interesting tournament. We'll see Bill Murray knock it around or whatever. So give me a shout. Let me know what you think, and hope this helped. Good luck. Talk to you guys soon.